Welcome back to Basement Integrity, the podcast by Reno Waterproofing. Last time we were talking about that High Park basement walkout.
Oh, yeah. It was a great example of how drainage and waterproofing can really make a
It
difference.
really was. And, it got us thinking about the bigger picture in Toronto. How basement renovations are kind of a secret weapon for the housing situation here.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people are converting basements into these great living spaces. It's really making a difference.
And, it's a big deal, right? I mean, housing in Toronto, it's tough. But suddenly there are these legal basement suites popping up. And they're affordable compared to, like, those crazy condo prices.
Definitely. And it's not just for, young professionals or students. We're seeing more multi-generational families living together too. Renovated basements give everyone their own space, which is important. Plus, it's easier on everyone's wallets.
It's true. Everyone needs their space. And on top of the affordability, we're seeing a lot of people boosting their property value with these renovations. A finished basement, especially with a legal apartment, can really add value in Toronto.
Oh, absolutely. We see it all the time. A well-designed basement that's properly waterproofed can add like tens of thousands of dollars to the selling price. People love the extra space, and they love the idea of getting rental income.
It's like finding hidden treasure right under your feet. But it's not just about individual homes, right? These basement renovations are also helping with the city's housing shortage.
For sure. It's a smarter way to use the space we already have instead of waiting for new buildings to go up.
Speaking of space, we can't avoid the elephant in the room, those low ceilings in older Toronto houses.
Ah, yes. The classic low basement ceiling, that's where underpinning comes in. We actually lower the basement floor, which gives you so much more headroom. It's like magic.
Really, like a basement makeover from the ground up. But underpinning isn't just about looks, right? It's important for legal and comfy living spaces, especially for those basement apartments.
Right. Toronto has rules about how high basement ceilings need to be, especially for apartments. Underpinning helps us meet those requirements, make sure everything's up to code, safe and comfy.
Now, about those legal basement apartments, they've become a big deal in Toronto, right? With the city changing zoning bylaws and stuff.
Definitely a big deal. The changes are encouraging these accessory dwelling units, ADUs. Basement apartments are part of that. It helps people create more affordable housing, and they can even earn some extra income.
It's like everyone wins. But there are rules, of course. It's not just about throwing up some walls and calling it a day. Things like stuff entrances, good ventilation, fire safety, all that's super important.
And it can get complicated. Working with a contractor who knows Toronto's bylaws is a must. They'll make sure you get everything right, avoid those expensive mistakes and delays.
Peace of mind is priceless, right? Knowing that your renovation is done right and safe for everyone. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of waterproofing and soundproofing, what really stands out to you about how these basement renovations are helping with Toronto's housing?
It's how creative people are being. They're finding solutions within their own homes that benefit everyone. It's a real grassroots solution to a tough problem. It's working. What about you? What stands out to you?
I think it's the potential. So many basements are just waiting to be transformed. It's exciting to think about all the possibilities.
It's amazing how we can make more living space in a house just by changing the structure.
It's true, we've seen so many incredible transformations at Isorino just by lowering the basement floor.
Exactly. But it's not just about adding height. It's about giving you a super strong foundation for the whole renovation.
I see. So it's like you wouldn't build a skyscraper on, like, wobbly ground. You need a strong base.
That's a great way to put it. So how do we do it? Well, we can't just go digging onto the house all willy-nilly. It's a very careful process. We dig out sections of the basement floor, bit by bit, usually about 4 feet wide at a time.
So you don't dig up the whole floor at once.
Nope, definitely not. We need to support the house while we dig. So we put in these temporary beams, like imagine building a little house inside the big house.
Oh, wow, that's a cool way to think about it. So you're basically making the foundation stronger as you go.
Exactly. Once we've dug out a section, we pour new concrete footings and walls. That creates the new lower floor level. And then we move on to the next section and do it all again.
Very meticulous, it sounds like.
It is, but in the end, you have a basement with way more headroom, a much stronger foundation, and of course, everything is done by the book, according to code.
Like giving the house a brand new start. Speaking of starting fresh, we have to talk about waterproofing. Super important here in Toronto with all the rain and snow we get.
Waterproofing is non-negotiable. Even with underpinning, you gotta have a proper system to keep that basement dry. We've seen what happens when people try to skip this part, and it's not pretty.
I can imagine. Water damage is a huge headache. So how do you guys approach waterproofing at Reno? What are the key things you focus on?
We think about everything. We start with the outside of the house, exterior waterproofing. That means we dig around the foundation and apply a waterproof membrane to the walls.
So you're like sealing the basement from the outside before any water can even get close.
That's the idea. And then we install weeping tile. You know those pipes that carry water away from the foundation?
Right, right. But what about water that's already under the floor?
Well, that's where interior waterproofing comes in. We create a system of drainage channels and sump pumps. They collect water from under the floor and pump it away.
So it's like a drainage system just for the basement. Anything that gets in is gone, just like that.
Exactly. We're always thinking ahead, tackling those potential water problems before they become big issues.
Now, we've talked about this before, but I think it's worth repeating. Why is it so important to get a professional to do the waterproofing? What could go wrong if you cut corners?
Water damage can be a total disaster for your basement. Mold, structural damage, even health problems, you name it. It's just not worth the risk.
Totally agree. It's all about protecting your investment, making sure you have a safe and healthy space.
Exactly. And speaking of healthy spaces, let's talk soundproofing. Super important if you're planning to live in the basement or rent it out.
Soundproofing. I feel like that gets forgotten sometimes, but it makes a huge difference in terms of comfort and privacy.
Huge. Imagine trying to relax in your basement and hearing every little noise from upstairs. Not very relaxing, right?
Not at all. So tell me, what do you do at Reno for soundproofing?
Well, a common thing we do is install special insulation between the basement ceiling and the floor above. And there are also types of drywall that absorb sound, too.
So you're stopping the sound waves from traveling.
Yep. And we seal up any little gaps and cracks around pipes outlets that stop sound from leaking through.
Wow, almost like you're soundproofing a recording studio.
Well, maybe not quite that extreme, but the idea is the same. We want to make the space as quiet and peaceful as possible.
I could see how that would make a huge difference for everyone, upstairs and down.
Exactly. Everyone wins with a well-soundproofed basement.
So far, we've covered underpinning, waterproofing, and soundproofing, all the important stuff for a dry, comfy, and functional basement. But we're in Toronto, and that means city bylaws. I know they can be a bit tricky, especially for basement renos.
Oh, the infamous Toronto bylaws. They can seem a bit overwhelming at first, but they're there for a reason, to make sure everything's safe and up to standard.
Right, of course. And for legal basement apartments, the bylaws are super important. What are some things people should keep in mind?
The big one. You need a building permit before you do anything.
Makes sense. Can't just start construction without the city knowing.
Exactly. And they have rules about basement apartments, separate entrances, ventilation, fire safety, all that good stuff. And of course, we got to make sure those ceilings are high enough.
So it's not just about making it look nice. It's got to be safe and meet all those building codes.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to work with a contractor who knows Toronto inside and out. They'll guide you through the permit process, make sure everything's up to code, and take a lot of the stress away.
Peace of mind is priceless. Knowing that your renovation is done right, legally sound, and safe for everyone.
Couldn't agree more.
So we've covered underpinning, waterproofing, soundproofing, and even those tricky Toronto bylaws. We've seen how to transform a basement from like a dark and damp space into something amazing.
And we've talked about how important it is to work with experienced professionals, especially in Toronto, people who really know their stuff when it comes to basements.
Speaking of experience, we'd love to share a bit more about how we do things at Reno and what makes us different. Speaking of experience, we'd love to share a bit more about how we do things at Reno and what makes us different.
Yeah, we've covered a lot, haven't we? Underpinning, waterproofing, soundproofing, even those Toronto bylaws. It's been quite the deep dive.
It really has, and we've seen how important these basement renovations are for Toronto, for the housing situation here.
It's true, and it's amazing how these renovations can make such a difference, not just for individual homes, but for the whole city.
Absolutely. But, we've been talking a lot about the technical side of things, right? But there's a whole other side to this, the human side.
So true. At the end of the day, these are people's homes, families, real lives.
Exactly. And that's something we never forget at Reno. We're not just contractors, we're partners, helping people create the homes they've always dreamed of.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We work side by side with our clients every step of the way, listening to what they need, understanding their concerns, finding solutions that actually work for them.
It's about being open and honest. Communicating clearly. We want our clients to feel comfortable and informed throughout the whole process.
Exactly. And we take the time to explain everything, answer any questions, keep everyone updated on what's happening.
Building trust is just as important as building a strong foundation.
Speaking of strong foundations, we only use the highest quality materials. And our team, well, they're the best in the business. True craftsmen who care about the work they do.
It's about creating a space that's not just beautiful, but built to last. Something our clients can enjoy for years to come.
That's what it's all about.
And what's really rewarding? Hearing from our clients about how much their new basement has changed their lives. More space for a growing family, a quiet place to escape, whatever it is. It's amazing to see the impact we have.
It really makes all the hard work worth it, knowing that we've helped create a space where people can thrive.
So as we wrap things up today, remember this. Your basement is more than just a basement. It's a chance to create something truly special. a space that reflects you and the life you want to live.
And if you're ready to explore those possibilities, come talk to us. Check out the Icerito Waterproofing website. You can see examples of our work, learn more about our services.
Thanks for joining us today on Basement Integrity. We'll be back soon to dig into more exciting basement topics.